Hello, JB. Hello, Mr. Nixon.
Hello, Bob. G'day, Bob.
I have company.
You do. Well done.
Right, well, you got to bring the practice man somewhere. I'm not the one that's going to be
No.
Do you want to hold hands?
Someone's got little people not happy. No.
There's someone not happy. There's an unhappy advisor. Got to the end of the year. All too overwhelming.
The dummy, darling. It's okay. Gareth, will you need me to allow you to share screen? I'm assuming you're going to use the slides you used in Kona.
I will be. Let me have a little look. No, it seems to be all set up for me to share, so that's all good.
Excellent. Good. All right. I'll do a very quick introduction of you if you like. Hey, this is Gareth from Wales. He's talking AI. So Gareth, MDRT Speaks, TOT Speaks session in Hawaii that was an introduction to how he's implemented it in his practice, and it was a very practical session with a deep dive focus session later for 40 minutes that just explored very practical issues with using Calendly, getting your diary under control, and no longer being the shambles that he once was, and now he's Mr. Super Organised. So I thought that'd be super practical for our guys. And one of the big things in the COT, TOT peer groups that we were looking at was how do we increase efficiencies as much as possible using AI without putting, new team members on, and using what's available now. So over to you, Gareth from Wales.
Thank you, Amanda, and thanks for the invite, everybody. So this is the talk I used for Hawaii. So I pretty much kept it as it was. So the key thing I've tried to include in this is some practical takeaways, because if you're like me, you've probably been to loads of conferences and talks, and everyone's talking about ChatGPT and AI and how to use it. Well, they're talking about how the theoretical applications, but it's quite rare to see any practical examples of how it's used. So this is kind of my journey of what I'm using and how I'm using it in a practical sense. So hopefully it'll be of some use. So I'll go through the presentation, and then at the end of it, if we're okay for time, so this will probably be about 35, 40 minutes. I did slightly overrun in Hawaii, so if we're okay for time, we can run through any questions. Does that sound okay? Perfect. So let me go on to sharing the and if I click on that, is that working okay? Excellent. So I'm going to run through the systems that I'm using in terms of the specifics of that, the actual tools that I'm using, and the key message is really thinking about the strategy in terms of kind of thinking about your why, if you like. So as a way of a sort of bit of background for me, I think it's useful to know a bit more about my journey and why trying to embrace this technology has been really important. So this is me. One of the standout memories as me as a sort of when the kids were growing up is I would typically wake up in the morning, Monday morning, I'd stumble out of the office to head to work, and about 30 seconds later, I'd be returning home. I'd forgotten a combination of my keys, my wallet, my diary, or my phone, and the kids would be standing at the doorway waiting for me. It was like a daily dance of disorganization, and it was almost like a daily game of what's Dad forgotten today? Because inevitably I'd forget things. To be honest, my life was like a daily circus, and it was a shambles. So over the last decade, I've used AI and technology specifically, not just for my professional life, but also for my personal life. So fast forward to where I am today. I've gone minimalist. So I no longer need any house keys because I can't be trusted with them. I'll just lose them all the time. So I've actually got a little tag on the back of my phone, which is like a radio frequency tag. So I can open my front door just by holding my phone near it. I don't own any car keys because inevitably I would lose or destroy those. So I've just got my phone as my car tag. And also I don't have a wallet anymore because I constantly lose my wallet. Last week I was looking for my wallet because I needed my driver's license, and it took me about 45 minutes to find the thing. So I've got one physical bank card that it's linked to about 5 or 6 bank accounts and credit accounts. And I've actually got that attached to the back of my phone using a MagSafe wallet. So I've got, no physical wallet. So my phone controls everything. So it's genius. Obviously, there is a slight weak spot. What happens if you lose your phone? But I can track my phone at any time due to my watch. So it's kind of as foolproof as you can get for me. Although I did forget to charge my watch a few weeks ago. And I did spend about half an hour trying to find my phone for that. But usually it works really, really well. So that's kind of where I am. So I'm going to share with you how I've turned chaos into clockwork. So growing up, in terms of the inspiration for this talk, I've sadly lost, I've brought up by two fathers, and I've sadly lost them both over the last year. So I've got Colin, my natural father, who has spent most of his life living in Canada, and he was a semi-professional musician. So he used to be seen plying his trade on the bars and pubs in Ottawa, in folk and sort of pub music. But the biggest inspiration growing up was my stepdad, who passed away earlier this year. He was a classical musician and a school teacher. And I used to, as a small child, watch mesmerised as he used to be conducting the school orchestras and conducting various orchestras and bands. And I used to be amazed at how he used to get everything working together. And it was reflecting on these pictures. That's what gave me the inspiration for this talk in terms of the theme of it. So if you will indulge me, I think of AI and automation as, imagine that you are the conductor, and each instrument represents a different tool or process in your sort of journey. Your job as the conductor is to try and make beautiful music and make sure that every instrument comes in on cue and in harmony. So what I'm going to do over the next half hour or so is I'm going to introduce you to my orchestra, explain how it works, the notes that they play, and also how I finely tune this orchestra to make sure it plays at the right time. And I'm going to go through the front stage and also the backstage process for a new potential client. So let's meet my orchestra. So first of all, I've got my Calendly booking system. So in terms of the overview system of this, I've got Calendly. This is my this is the first time a client meets us. So it sets the scene, it sets the rhythm and tempo. So I almost think of it as the percussion section. It's like a steady drum beat. The first time a potential client meets us, it does set the tones for how we structure all the future interactions. It just keeps things moving. So Calendly works that really well. So I'm going to go through in more detail in a few minutes' time about how I've been finding tuning Calendly, but that's the main tool I use as the introduction system. Then we got the first meeting itself. It's like the first violins. It leads the melody of all client interactions, and it captures the conversations. So I use Zoom for most of my meetings. Face-to-face meetings are slightly different, but I do use AI for those. But certainly for all of my virtual meetings, I use Zoom. And then we've got the data gathering. It's like the woodwind section with the clarinet adding depth and detail. What we use is a pre-meeting data gathering information. We use something called JOT form. So I don't meet any potential clients without having information beforehand in terms of what their objectives are, what the situation is, and what they're looking to get from the meeting. So JOT form kind of does that. Then we've got the back office, the Teams task management system. It's almost like the brass section. It's bold and resonant. So with that, it's like the trumpets and trombones. And then we've got, I've actually missed out a section, sorry. That's this section here is the AI meeting note taker. This is like a fairly new introduction. So I've been using Zoom for quite a while, but I've actually got my AI meeting note taker. So all of my meetings are recorded automatically. In fact, I think it's joined this meeting. It just syncs in with my diary automatically. All of my meetings, virtual and face-to-face, are recorded. That's my AI meeting note taker. Oops, daisy, what's got on here? And then I've got, oh, it's in the wrong order. Then I've got, yeah, Trello is my task management system. So it's like the brass section. So Trello is the task management system for the team. And what that does, it announces all the tasks for the team. So they're not going to get lost. They know what they're doing and when they're doing it. So that's my orchestra. And of course, you're the conductor. And it's your job to make sure that they come in on tempo, in the right time. And when it works, it's nothing short of magical. But of course, you need a baton. The baton is your magic wand. This is your AI and integration. This is how it all works together to make sure everything comes in together and on tune. So I'm going to talk you through exactly how this works for each of those elements. So first up, we've got Calendly. Calendly, for those of you who have used it, I'm sure most of you have either used it in your businesses or you've seen companies where they've got Calendly. Ostensibly, it's there to automate the scheduling. So it books in, clients can see when a slot's available and they click on that and it books the slots for them. So it works really well. The beauty of it is that it works straight out of the box. It's easy to set up. it sets up virtual meetings like a dream. So if you sync it with Zoom, if you sync it with something like Google Meets, if you sync it with the Microsoft one, it does it automatically. So it'll set the meeting up, it'll send the link out to the client. So it's a really simple system. It also can work for face-to-face meetings, not as well, especially if you've got multiple locations, but for anything virtual, it's really, really good. And so the beauty of it is that it is simple to set up. However, what I found is that actually it can do a lot more than that. As well as just booking the meetings and sending a follow-up confirmation email, you can actually use Calendly with some simple tweaks, and I'll run through the tweaks that I've made to Calendly. You can actually use it almost as a lightweight marketing funnel, and it can actually start building the relationship from the first click. So if I just take a step back and talk you through the problem that I was trying to solve. Traditionally, I would always have Louise in my office, who's been with me for quite a few years. She would speak to the client to book the meeting. She would then set up the Zoom meeting, and then she would manually email the confirmation of that, or she'd book a face-to-face meeting. And then after she did that, she would send out the TOT form link. That's the pre-meeting discovery link. So that'd be a link that she would send out for them to complete about their information. When that came back to us, she would then add that to our work management system, to the Trello card. So that's what she did. And what I hadn't appreciated was that it's not just the time that took her, but it's also the mental headspace. If I was doing 10 or 15 client meetings in a week, that's a lot of stuff for her to be orchestrating and making sure she's on top of. And she was spending about an hour a week on just this mundane stuff. That's 50 hours a year lost to pure monotony. And it's stuff that she was just needing to do to make sure it's all working as it should have been. Now all of this is totally automated. So she's got an extra 50 hours a year that's free for her to do more meaningful work. So it boosts her productivity, but also she's a lot more satisfied because that kind of stuff's been taken off her plate. So I'm just going to walk you through how we've done that. So this is the Calendly system. So those of you who have used Calendly, you might be familiar with this. So this is my, I've got quite a few different meetings. I've got 6 different meetings on here. When it comes off the shelf, they got a standard confirmation. So I'm just going to talk you through the process of this. So hopefully this video will start playing. Yeah, here we go. So if you click on that little icon there, this opens up the settings behind the scenes. So this is what clients would usually see. This is what I've changed. So if you scroll down to the communication sections, if you click on that, that should open up. So as soon as they get the invitation, what they get is some standard wording. This is what the clients will see. So they'll say, that's the headline that they'll get on the email. And it just says, here's the detail. In fact, it'll probably be similar to the one we had for this Zoom meeting. So here's the detail for what we're talking about. And it's fine. You know, it tells them what they need to do. But you've also got an email reminder, which you can toggle on or off. This is a reminder that I usually have sent out 24 hours before the meeting. And it says, it's a friendly reminder that you've got this meeting with Gareth on this date. Again, it does the job. It's nothing offensive. And it's a standard template that they send out. So I was looking at that thinking, well, what can we do with that to tweak that and tailor it to remove Louise's role of having to send the follow-up information and send things out? Because there's no way on the face of it on Calendly you can send out any attachments. So you can't send out any attachments for pre-meeting documents. You can't send out any information about meeting the team. Because as well as asking for clients to fill in information beforehand, we used to like to we still do like to bombard them with some indoctrination almost. They will get things like testimonials. They'll get some case studies of who we work with. They'll get a copy of my CV or an introduction video from me and the team so they know who they're dealing with before they met me, so they're not that cold prospect. So I was pondering that for ages and thinking, how can I tweak that letter? How can I make use of this system where they get this automatic email to make them a warm client? So this is what we've done. So the standard, the confirmation email I've got now, I've changed it quite a bit. So if I talk this through with you, so I'll use the standard discovery meeting that we've got. So I've got quite a few different events. So go into the settings. So this time, when they get the communication from me, the standard confirmation email is slightly different. And it looks like this. So the subject is exactly the same. First details are the same, but then it says the details and links are at the bottom of this email. And then what I've said to them is, in order to make sure the meeting is as productive for you as possible, it's helpful to have an overview of your situation. this is a link to a pre-meeting preparation form. So whilst you can't attach documents, what you can put in there is hyperlinks. They click on that and that's a hyperlink that goes straight through to a jot form. Then we've also got a little thing in case there's any pushback about, well, why am I asking for that? We've also got a link to our data consent form if they want that as well. So that's quite useful. In fact, the first thing to be able to fill in that form, they've got to have ticked the box. It's like a GDPR thing. They've got to have ticked the box. And this is the follow-up email they get the day before the meeting. So this is the reminder. And then what we say to them is, before we meet, people often tell us that it's helpful to have some background information about us. Here's a link to some information about Gareth, and that's a hyperlink to a video introduction from me, and a link to the rest of the team, and that's a link to a team bio. Here are some nice things that some of our clients have said about us, and they click on it, and that's a link then to our testimonials. And then it's just a reminder about the pre-meeting form. So just by making those changes, it means that automatically we've requested the information, and that comes through straight to us automatically. And also they've had the information in terms of the background about the kind of people I work with, a bio about me, and it's just a lot warmer. So that's what's done automatically. I think you can also tailor it to have additional follow-up meetings as well. In fact, one change I've done since this, on the left-hand side where it's got the email follow-up, I've now toggled that on as well. And I've got a follow-up meeting to ask for testimonials. Just by way of a background, I do lots of retirement courses for organisations. So I do lots of university retirement courses for staff. So I did 2 of them last week. So it's for lecturers for various universities. And very often I'll get paid for doing the course, and there might be 15, 20 different lecturers who are thinking about retiring in the next few years. And of that, yes, I will meet some ideal clients, but there's quite a few people who will just have a half an hour chat, and it's just signposting them for the future or letting them know of the kind of things we could do. So there's no business opportunities. And what I've been meaning to do for a long time is to try and toggle those and to try and get those, harness those as like a source of referrals and a source of getting recommendations. So now what I've done in the last few weeks, I've now got an automated email follow-up that says, really nice to meet you. Hopefully you found it useful. If you find our meeting productive, please spend a couple of minutes giving some feedback and reviews. So it links them to Google reviews and Facebook reviews, whichever is easier for those. So that's something I've only done in the last 2 weeks. And already I've had sort of 5 or 6 reviews, which it's taken me years to get those previously because I kept on forgetting to ask for them. So again, you can just, it's just being creative and thinking, well, how can I use this to work for me? So that's how I've been using Calendly. So what that does now, that gets a lot of the information from clients before I meet them. So they get information about who we work best with. They get the team bio. They get the testimonials. All of this without anybody needing to lift a finger or click any buttons. So that's Calendly, that first meeting booking system. That's the percussion section. I'm going to just spend a few minutes talking through Jot form. That's the pre-meeting preparation that we ask clients to fill in, and also how it integrates with Trello. That's our task management system, the brass section, if you like. So Jot form, this is information that the clients fill in online, so where they share some information about them, about what their goals, what their objectives are. And when it comes through to us, it looks like this. So they say what their objectives are, they can put information about their income, they can put their outgoings, and crucially, we ask them what their biggest objective is. So that's what they fill in. And then also we've got our Trello board. I don't know if anyone here has used Trello. It's what they call a Kanban style board. There are a few others, like Monday.com is one. I think Microsoft have got their own version of it. My team use it to orchestrate everything, to make sure that we don't miss any tasks, to make sure we're all kept on track. And also if I'm in a client meeting, I can add notes to that. So each work task, if you like, has got its own Trello card. So if traditionally what would happen is if Louise booked a meeting for a client, she would make a card with that client's name, and on that she'd put any notes about what they wanted to talk about, and she would have to manually add that Jot form card to it. And on the face of it, they're different bits of software. You've got Jot form and you've got Trello. And that's something we've always struggled with, is lots of these tech systems, they work in silos. So Calendly is very good, Jot form is very good, Trello is very good, but it's not easy to get them to talk to each other. So what I've done is I've used some software to actually get these to integrate with each other quite nicely. So this is how Trello looks for those of you who haven't seen it. So this is our board as at a couple of months ago. So I've got a list there for client meetings towards the right-hand side. And every time a meeting was booked, Louise would add a new card and type the client's name, and then she would manually add the card to it when it arrived. So when the job form card arrived, she would manually add that to it. So when I was ready for the meeting, I'd click on the card and I can see all the stuff that's in there. So what we've done, I don't know if anyone here has used or heard of Zapier. Zapier is like a digital glue. It's there, it works with thousands of different apps, bits of software, bits of programming, and it's designed to integrate them together. It could be using various different things. It could be using Microsoft Teams, Facebook accounts, all the things on there. So it's like a digital glue that works together without any manual involvement. So the idea of this is it saves that time, and it also reduces the potential for human error. And it works on a standard workflow based on something called IFTTT, which for those of you who've done any programming before may be familiar with this. It's something called if this then that. It's what's called conditional logic. And this is how all automation works for any bit of software. So it's based on, it's like a chain of dominoes. If there's a first action, then something else happens, and then something else happens, and then something else happens. So it's that chain reaction. So it looks for the first thing, which is what we call the trigger. So I've actually got Zapier to work, and it links up automatically with Jotform and Trello, because you can actually, both of those can actually work with Zapier. So it's constantly 24/7. The system is looking out for if a Calendly appointment is booked in my diary. If a Calendly appointment is booked and it's for a first meeting, what we call a discovery meeting, then this automatically, the system will create a Trello card with a matching name. And this is done automatically without anyone needing to do anything. So rather than Louise doing it, the system will automatically create a Trello card, and it knows to drop it in the right section. And then it keeps on looking. If a job form arrives with the corresponding name, so for the same matching name that the Trello card is, then it automatically adds it to Trello. So all of this is completely automated. So rather than Louise having to check the emails every couple of days to think, right, Mrs. Miggins, she's got an appointment booked in, I've got the Trello card, I need to look out for when the job form arrives and then copy and paste it onto the Trello card. It's automatically done for us without anyone needing to do anything. So if we just take a backward step and look at what we've done, that means from the moment a first client meeting has been booked on my diary, everything's automated. They will get the reminder about that. They'll get the links for the pre-meeting discovery information. As soon as they complete that discovery information, a card is created and the information's all linked up to it. So I can literally log into the meeting, go onto my Trello system, the work management system, and everything will be on there. All the notes and the card that we need for all the information for the client. So it's seamless. It works really, really well. I'm now going to spend the next sort of 5 or 10 minutes talking through what happens during the meeting and beyond, and what we've been using for automation for that, and also for AI. I am a complete shambles when it comes to organising myself, as I showed earlier, in terms of the where to forget things. And I used to, for years and years, I've loved the idea of having a meeting note scribe. So someone actually sitting in my meeting to make notes, because my notes more resembled hieroglyphics than anything else. I would, especially if I got a day of back-to-back meetings, 3 or 4 or 5 meetings, I'd have all these scrolled notes and little diagrams. At the time, I would know perfectly well what they would make. When I'd go back to review my notes afterwards, it was like abstract art rather than anything else. And it just didn't make a lot of sense. And also, in addition to that, I had a very unhealthy habit of sometimes even forgetting to pass my notes on to the team for several weeks until they'd be chasing up for them. So I loved the idea of having a personal scribe, someone in the team sitting in on the meeting, making better notes than I would, but we just didn't have the resources. I've got 3 or 4 people who work behind the scenes supporting me, and they're flat out just mopping up my spills and messes. So we didn't have the ability to do it. And for years, I've heard about AI, or I've heard about virtual meeting note takers and recording meetings, but it doesn't work well with a Welsh accent, let me tell you. So when I've tried things like Otter or Dragon Dictation or various things in the past, the stuff that comes out didn't really work that well. Enter the new generation of automated AI meeting note takers. Now, I don't know if any of you have been recording meetings and had AI meeting note takers, but this stuff is insane. It really is the next level of stuff. So what it does, it makes sure that nothing's missed, and it actually has got the meeting notes in a really good summary form. So rather than just having a chronological list of what we talked about, it actually dissects them into more manageable headings, and they actually make sense really well. So it keeps track of client conversations, but also over and above that, I think it does three things. The first thing it does, it actually is an opportunity for you to elevate your status. So something that a few people have said to me is, well, if you record meetings, how do you tell clients about that? And aren't clients really funny about you recording meetings? I would flip that on its head. I think actually by telling clients that you record meetings, it actually enhances your status and professionalism. So for all meetings with clients, I always say this, because we are really thorough, I like to record all of my meetings. Is that okay with you? And just by saying that, obviously, yes, it gets their consent that you're going to record the meetings, but it lets them know by default, if they are seeing any other financial advisors to compare you, by default, you've let them know that you're very thorough because you record meetings. Therefore, any advisor who does not record meetings, by default, they can't be very thorough. So actually, it elevates your status. The second thing that it does is produce instant summaries. There are quite a few AI meeting note takers. I've experimented with probably most of them. The one I'm settled on is Fathom, which I think has joined us now in recording this one. What I like about Fathom is that it's instant. So within about 30 to 60 seconds of the meeting finishing, I've got an instant summary. Lots of them take a few minutes for them to come through. So you get an instant summary. And that allows me to update my one-page plan, which is like a one-page overview we've got for all of our clients. Well, I say one page, it's actually not one page. It started off as one page, it's now 4 pages because I'm a bit of a shambles, but I still call it a one-page plan because I like to cause confusion. So this is my one-page plan. So it's so this is my key takeaway. So this is my the summary of the meeting. So this is all taken from Fathom. So after the meeting with the client, then what it does, it actually I simply cut and paste this summary, and then I've got a meeting notes of the key takeaways, what we've talked about, and also the next steps. This is all done automatically. So that's the bit there taken from it. So that stuff, making notes on my meetings, if I could make notes, would take me quite a long time, and it's incredibly accurate. It talks about all the things we talked about, and it knows what to leave out. So during a client meeting, all the conversations about, I don't know, the reference to the grandchildren and what they're doing, or when the dog starts rubbing up against your leg and all that kind of thing, it misses all that stuff out. It knows that that's not really pertinent to the meeting. It focuses on the key stuff. This is the first page of my one-page plan where I've got kind of the overview, all the different things. But what it does, which I really like about Fathom, the first section, the first sentence or two on Fathom, it's a summary of the objectives of the meeting, what you talked about. So I simply copy and paste that, and it goes into the meeting objectives. And that's my one-page plan kind of updated from that. So it works really well. So it allows me to rapidly update them. But also, what most of these meeting note takers do, as well as giving you a couple of paragraphs about a summary of the meeting and the breakdown of the points, it also gives you a full meeting transcript. And this can be really, really powerful. This is where the real magic happens. Because if you've got this full transcript, then you can do all kinds of wacky stuff with it. Let me show you how I use the transcript. So I'm going to talk about ChatGPT. That unless you've been living under a rock for the last 2 years, you will have heard about ChatGPT constantly. You will probably have had a play around with it. And if not, you've certainly talked to people who have used it. I'm going to run through how I've used ChatGPT and the GPTs that I've built, because you've got the free version, which is pretty good. It's fine. It's pretty accurate. The key thing for ChatGPT is how you customize it. So I've got the premium version, and I'll show you why I've got the premium version in a second. But even the free version, there's some stuff you need to know about how it works. The first thing you need to do is to if you've not played around with this stuff, you need to understand how it works on prompts. And it's totally the opposite of the way we taught ourselves over the last 30 years to search for things on the internet. So if you're searching for things on Google or Safari or however you search on the internet, to get the best results, you need to put the shortest possible key bullet points in there. If you write a whole sentence or two about what you want to achieve, you're not going to get a lot from Google, because you just want the key 2 or 3 words. ChatGPT is the opposite. The more information you put in about what you're looking for, the more it understands what you want to get out. If you just say, write me a blog about the importance of life cover for families, it's going to be very, very generic. If you let it know who you are, who the audience is, and why you're writing it, and as detailed as possible, you're going to get a lot more specific output. So prompting is quite important. But equally important is tailoring it. letting it know who you are. So even if you've got the free version of ChatGPT, there are things you can do in the system to actually tailor it to let you know who you are. Because otherwise, every time it goes in, you go into the system, it's just going to assume that you're just Joe Public, and it doesn't know who it's talking to and who you're talking to. So this is what ChatGPT looks like for those of you who haven't seen it. I need to remember how this video works now. If you click on the top right, this is the profile of it. And if I click on here, this is how you customize it. So even if you've got the free version, you can still customize it. Let it know who you are. If you've done this already, then great. If not, you need to let it know what part of the world you're based in, what you do for a living, what your hobbies are, and also how you want it to respond. I find that the main outputs, especially if you're asking it to write things like blog articles or newsletter articles, it's really gushing and flowery. So I've actually given it a bit of a profile in terms of the kind of writing I'd like to use. So I've asked it to write in a certain style, and I'll tell you about that in a second. And then if you've got the paid for version, you can actually build your own GPTs that you can train to give outputs as you want. So I've actually got 4. I'm going to talk about 2 or 3 of them in a second. But this is how you build them. So you can give it a name. So it might be when you want to build for writing newsletter blogs, for example, a description of what it does, instructions, the more the better. And then you've got what we call conversation starters. And I'll show you in a second what the conversation starters are and why they're important. The conversation starters are the prompts. So when you first log into it, it's almost like the shortcut of what you want it to start doing. So you can put as many as you want, but it'll only show you 4 at a time. And then you can train it. You can actually upload files. So I've trained mine on, it knows who I am. So when I first go into ChatGPT, it knows that I'm Gareth. It knows I'm a financial planner. It knows all about my team. It knows the clients we work best with. All our client testimonials that I send out to clients, I've actually uploaded that as part of the knowledge. The team profile, I've uploaded that as part of the knowledge. So if it makes a reference to Louise, that says Louise has been working with me for 20 years, it might reference that what she does. So the more information you train it on, the better. So I've uploaded my 1-page plan, and it's been one of the GPTs I've got is trained to understand and digest the 1-page plan. It understands what it's for and the purpose. So actually it can give me an output from those. So if I just go back 1 second, one thing I should have explained is this. Here we go. I mentioned about the conversation starter. This is what it looks like. Can I pause this? No, I can't. Those bullet points there, explain a soul, like a local, create a workout plan. Those are what we call the conversation starters. So when you first go onto GPT, it's kind of guessing what you might want to talk about, and it's just literally random things. But when you created your own GPTs, which are the ones on the top left of my screen, so my AI bot, my meeting analyzer, my executive assistant, and my 1-page plan summarizer, for each of those, when I log into it, it'll have 4 prompts, 4 conversation starters that I've suggested. So, for example, one of my meetings will be the AI Gareth meeting note analyzer. The first one will be provide a summary for a client based on the first meeting we've had. The second will be provide an estate planning summary for a client if it's been an estate planning meeting. So you can actually tailor those. So let me show you how it works. So the meeting summarizer, what this does, this is the first GPT that I've built, that I've been adapting, and I'm always adapting it and honing it, and I changed it again a little bit last week. The first GPT that I'm going to talk you through and show you how it works. As I said, I've got 4 of these that I've built. The first one is a meeting summarizer. So I use this ChatGPT, this personalized GPT, to summarize all of my first meetings. It's been trained to analyze my 1-page plans. It can then give a high-level summary. It can identify the next steps for the team, and it can assign actions. So what I use this for is at the end of each week, I send an email to my team about all the meetings I've had. So it might be 5 meetings, it might be 15 meetings, and I'll send a quick summary for the team of each client name, what we've talked about, what we've agreed is the next steps, and also who's responsible for those. And it used to take me about an hour or 2 on a Friday to go through all of my meetings and then send that email to the team. It now takes me a minute or 2 to do, and I'll show you in live time how this works, if I can get it working. The second GPT I'm going to talk you through is a client email drafter that I've trained to draft an email to a client after a first discovery meeting, and it's trained to write an email in my specific style using my information. And I mentioned earlier, it's about training it to write in your style. And you might be thinking, well, how do I know what my style of writing is? simply ask ChatGPT. So for me, for example, for years I've loved writing. I do client newsletters, I do client blogs, I do client articles. So I actually fed those into ChatGPT and said, these are some samples of my blogs that I've written for clients over the years, and it knows that who my clients are, it knows who I am. Please describe my writing style. And then it described it. Apparently it's quite a nice writing style, and I simply copied and paste however it described my writing style, and I put that in the instructions. So please make sure all outputs are in this writing style. So it's done the analysis for you. So it's just thinking about how you can use this. So the two GPTs I'm going to explain to you are the meeting summarizer and the client email drafter. So let me just walk these through with you. So the client email drafter, that's designed to read my full meeting notes and actually write an email to a client to send out after I first met them in a specific style with my writing style, but in a specific order. So let me show you how this works. So first of all, these are I've got 4 GPTs. I've actually got 5 now. I've built a 5th one recently. So I'm going to talk you through the GPTs that I've got. So first of all, the 2 I'm going to go through are, this is the email I sent to the team at the end of the week. So this is a live demonstration of how it works in live time. So this email used to take me about an hour to write by hand. So log into ChatGPT. This is the one-page plan summarizer. And that's the conversation starter. Please write, WC stands for week commencing, that's my acronym, a week commencing summary for each of the files. Please acknowledge and await files. So now what I'm going to do, these are my meetings from this week. There are, I think, about 4 or 5 meetings. Simply get my one-page financial plans, for 6 or 7 meetings rather. Simply take them, drag them and drop them into there. It's now reading and uploading those one-page plans, and it's now going to produce a short summary for each of those to send the team. I've got these anonymized, obviously, it's all probably anonymized, so there's no client stuff, they haven't got clients' names in there. So what we talked about, what kind of meeting it was, the actions, if I'm going to do things, I simply then go into my emails, send an email to the team, copy and paste that. And then what I would do, because I'm really nice for my team, so I put the subject in there, of what we do. So it's week commencing 1st of August or whatever the date was. And then I would simply highlight then if it's different teams, so if it's different actions for the team, so if it's for anything the client needs to do, anything for the team to do, I'd highlight it in various colors. So that would take me, I can't find any way of automating that. But this stuff, going through all of my meeting notes and then writing to the team saying what we talked about, would have taken me quite a long time at the end of each, either at the end of each meeting or at the end of the week. It now took you however long, we're up to 1 minute, 35 seconds so far, and it's virtually done. And that's for 6 client meetings. And actually, so I've tweaked and changed this a little bit now. I've got, I've asked it to sort of beef it out a little bit more for other things. So that's the week commencing one. So that's the first GPT that I built, and it's designed specifically for digesting and understanding my one-page plans and creating a summary for that. The second one I've done is designed to actually write the emails to the clients after the first meeting. So if I have a discovery meeting with a client, this actually drafts an email to a client based on either a one-page plan, or even better, it's based on copying and pasting the whole meeting transcript. So let me show you how this works. Again, I'm recording this in live time, so you can see how quick this is. If you trained it properly, how insanely quick this stuff can be. So this is the meeting analyzer. Just to pause this for 1 second, actually, what I've done is going to go back 1 second. I've trained this to write. First of all, it knows the writing style that I do. So it's like a slightly light-hearted style. I don't like to take myself too seriously. So it knows the style of writing. But also it needs to know the structure of how you want it to, because it doesn't know if you want to have a really long email, a really short email. So I've actually trained mine on something called The First Minute, which is a book I read about a year ago about how to structure client communication to get best results. So it's structuring emails in a specific style. So the very first opening of an email should be the framing to say what the purpose of the email is and what the actions that they want to be. So are there any actions or not, what you want them to do. And then it's something called the GPS paragraph, which stands for flagging up the client's goals, what the problems are and what the solutions are. So you said to me you wanted to retire by the age of 60. At the moment, your planning is a bit incomplete. You don't understand what you've got. The solution is we're recommending developing a retirement lifestyle plan. for example. So whatever their goals are, what the problems are. So I've actually copied and pasted the whole book as a PDF into the knowledge, so it can read the book. And if I say, please follow the instructions from that book, it will know any emails to the client will be writing it in that structure using the paragraphs. So let me carry on with how it works. So that's been trained. So go to the GPT, my meeting note analyzer. It does need to be reminded of stuff. So I'll show you now in a second. So that's the conversation starter. It's a long conversation starter. So I've asked it to write an email based on the principle of the first minute. I've now copied and pasted. This is the whole meeting transcript. I've simply copied and pasted it from Fathom, and it's got everything in there. It sometimes misunderstands who says what. It's got all the conversation about what brats their children are and how they can't wait to get rid of the kids. It's got all the stuff in there that the conversation about the parents. Literally copied and pasted the whole meeting notes in there. It's got all the ums, the ahs, the yes, the buts. So this is how it looks. Click that. It's now analysing that meeting, drafting an email to the client based on the instructions I've told them how I would like an email to be drafted. I take the email. So the structure is identifying what the challenges are for the clients, identifying what we've talked about and what the next steps are. And this is how it looks. You need to do your editing of that, and you need to take off, make sure you take off the fact that this is a draft of how it works. But I'll talk you through the email. So dear Becky and Tim, thanks for meeting me recently. It was great to meet you to discuss your evolving financial lives. And again, if you think that language is too flowery, it doesn't sound like you, then you can reword that. Talks about the career changes that she's made. Our focus is to enhance your lifestyle as you approach retirement. During the discussion, we identified several opportunities and adjustments. You wanted to make sure you're making the most of your spare income, concerned about managing your mortgage repayments, pension contributions, and then what we're recommending. So we propose to address these concerns. We propose developing a retirement lifestyle plan designed for your circumstances. It gives you a clear, structured approach to, and then the bullet points of what they said to us over that hour-and-a-half meeting, or however long the meeting was, and what they wanted to talk about. Then it's got the next steps. So the next steps, if you're happy with things, give us the statement. And again, you'll need to do a little bit of topping and tailing of this. But how long would this email have taken before? This has taken 2 minutes and 8 seconds so far, and that's the copying and pasting of it. So that's how I use that. And so I've got another 2 GPTs that I'm not going to bore you with those, but I've got one that writes marketing content. So for things like blogs, newsletters, and the other one is just a general sort of business assistant. So it's trained as like a business manager. If I've got any challenges in the business, anything as I'm thinking about marketing, it's like an extra, it's like having an executive assistant. In fact, for that one, that's what I've called it. It's like having a pretty highly paid office junior who understands your business. And the more you can train it, the more it will understand about your business. So what I find with this kind of stuff is that it's a big, scary world out there. And when I see people using AI or talking about AI, there are 2 extremes that I see people moving to. So first of all, there's the kind of people who put our head in the sand, and they're the kind of people who are ignoring progress. It's a bit like having that ostrich effect with your head in the sand. It's those people who refuse to adapt. It's the same kind of people who are insisting on using VHS tapes in a world that's moved to streaming. It's a surefire way of you're going to get yourself left behind. But equally, there's a danger of the other extreme, and I've certainly been guilty of this in the past, and if not now. You can easily get sidetracked. There are so many rabbit warrens and rabbit holes to go down. There's so many promises of easy wins. Just in the UK alone, we've got loads of companies that are popping up left, right, and centre that promise to solve your solution, so they can do this and that and the other. And some will work really well. I've trialed most of them, and I'm trying a couple at the moment. Some will work really well. Some you'll spend so long doing them that they give you perhaps solutions to problems that you haven't actually got. AI, lots of these stuff have got really good features, but most of them don't really do what I want. So that's why I did my own. What I wanted to do is have something that's got a quick output that does things in my style, and it can integrate the existing systems I've got rather than creating new stuff. So on one hand, you've got people who put their head in the sand. On the other hand, you've got people who spend all the time looking for different things. That's why I built my own. As I said, I wanted to make sure that I've got something that does what I need it to do, and I spent a bit of time building it. But it does really work. So I want to make sure that my team have got the high-level actions flagged up, and it's got a good output for clients. That's the key thing. But don't forget that this is you. It's your orchestra. It's you that's leading the performance. I really hope that you found today useful. Hopefully it's been a useful session for you this evening. It's been worthwhile. What I would say is making sure that you're following these things through. Hopefully there's been some specific actions you can think. Hopefully you can think, actually, yes, I can start using Calendly a bit more, or maybe do some tweaks or changes. The main idea, though, is I want you to get inspiration and a philosophy. Inspiration about how you can take some of these ideas in your business, and a philosophy of how you can be more Netflix and less blockbusters. And it's embracing the future, because whatever we think, the future is here and it's now, and it's time for us to embrace it. Hopefully you found that useful.
Thank you, Gareth. Yeah, look,
Open
hearing
to-
it again's been fabulous.
Open to any questions.
I'm going to kick off with a question. When you have the Calendly edited versions that go out to your clients, and you said it can't take attachments, but you can put in hyperlinks and
Yes.
linked jot form, are you taking it to a website that you have that form on as a hyperlink?
Great question, because that had me scratching my head for a while. So if it's jot form, that is a website that's online, so it's an online link anyway that goes into the jot form, like into their microsystem, if you like. So jot form is always a link. If what I was taking ages to work out how I can do it is for things like client testimonials, because that's just a PDF document we used to send. So I've actually got that on is it either OneDrive or it's on one of these, I think it's Dropbox I use. So it's a link to Dropbox. So I've saved it in my Dropbox folder, and I've got that edited so anyone with a link can edit it. So that's how I've got it.
How does it then go into a Google testimonial if it has to come from a client's individual account?
Ask me that again, sorry.
Google testimonials are usually from a person's individual profile.
Yeah.
How do you put it up as a Google?
So I've got the testimonials I've got as a PDF document. I wonder if I can show you.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a link to my. So
that person. Yeah.
No. So that's a. So testimonials are a PDF document I've created in the past that we used to send out or print out to people if it was face-to-face meetings. At the end of the meeting, what we asked them for is a Google testimonial, and that's a link then. So if they've got Google, which most people have got, then so it says click here for if you found the meeting useful. I'd really appreciate, I can't remember the wording we've got, but I'd really appreciate some nice feedback. Click here if you've got a Google account to leave us Google review. Otherwise, you can leave a review on this something we've got in the UK called, it's a bit like TripAdvisor for financial planners.
We've got advisor ratings, very similar.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So that kind of thing. But
now, Matty, I see Matty Fogarty has demuted. Do you have a question, Matt?
Yeah, I do. Just on the data security, I think with ChatGPT, I think with client data, we're using Copilot. I'm using Otter. I'm playing around with, I've got to be careful not going into rabbit orange, but Calendly, you've given me some great ideas. So we use Copilot because it's protected within the tenant of Microsoft. How's we going with client data protection with ChatGPT?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Matthew. Thank you for that. I think we need to be careful with this stuff. So we make sure we anonymize everything. Now, again, I know there are one or two firms who say even if it's anonymized, they're not confident about that. We make sure there's nothing on there. So anything gets fed in, clients' names are taken from it. So it's just Mr. and Mrs. R, for example, on the one-page plan. So Fathom have got GDPR compliance, so Fathom is fine. But ChatGPT, that's the one where there can be question because it's often used as training. Now, there's a tick box you can click into there inside ChatGPT if you've got the paid for version that says you don't want it to be used for training. However, there's still a big question mark about how secure this stuff is. So I make sure anything we put into it, it hasn't got any client names. So it'll just there's a Mr. R who we talked about the challenges and they got £100,000 of investments, but we certainly don't record it. If a client wants to give things like their plan numbers, policy numbers, or account numbers or anything confidential, we stop recording at that point anyway. But that usually doesn't come up. Certainly for a discovery meeting, that wouldn't come up anyway.
Good. That's great. No, fantastic. There was some good stuff. There was another question popped in my head, but I can't think of it. Sorry, it's just gone.
I'll ask someone else and then you'll think of it.
Sorry.
So, Sarah, were you demuting as well for a question?
Yeah, I was. So Gareth, your talk was really great. Thank you, because you're a great speaker. When I book my meetings, I've already got the fact find, and that's why we tend to do it the manual way that you started your talk, doing it. And it's a few bits and bats and forwards, and then we book the Zoom meeting, and then the fact find's attached to the Zoom meeting. Is there any, this is why I can't see how I can use Calendly, because I don't let clients book themselves because they may not have done the fact find, and I prep every Friday afternoon for the following week. So is there any way that you can sort of get them booking when you have got the fact find already? Like, well, you'd call that your jot form. Do you get me?
Yeah. So do you fill that with them, or do you fill it in? Do you make them fill it in beforehand then?
No, they fill it in themselves. So it comes to me, and obviously it's 80% correct because during the Zoom meeting we've got to go back for it and just check it, because I lead by mortgages. So I would never start a meeting with 0. So they fill in a fact find, then I book the meeting. So is there any way to do that with Calendly first, that once we've got the meeting, then I can direct them to Calendly to book it, and then attach the fact find, as I call it, to the Calendly meeting thing?
There's got to be, yeah, there would be. I don't know how offhand. So you've had one meeting with them.
No,
then
none.
No, okay. You spoke to them on the phone then, I guess, yeah.
No.
So how
You use the if this then that concept, that once you've done it, then the Calendly link goes out. So you don't get the link until you've done the job form if you do it through the Zapier linking.
Yeah.
So people contact me in Messenger, say, hey, we're interested in having you as our financial advisor, mortgage advisor. So I go, cool, here's, if you send me your email address, your full name, and your phone number, I'll send you a link. When that comes back, we'll book your Zoom meeting. So they go, cool, here's the details. Send them the fact find. It comes back. Then manually we book them into a Zoom meeting.
Okay, so there's 2 ways that could work for that then. So when you do you email them then to say thanks for the information?
Well, yeah, and straight away, here's our free times of Zoom meetings for the next 2 weeks.
So you could just attach a Calendly. It's still manual to an extent. You could attach your Calendly, because I find booking into meetings is a nightmare. Because if you give them 2 or 3 times, by the time they come back to you, it's, oh shit, that meeting time's gone, and that's just an absolute nightmare. So if you send them your Calendly link on that email, so thanks for the information, here's the Calendly link, and that could be like an evergreen link that's always on there, so that will just show you to your live diary. So that could work. You could probably get that automated. So as soon as, depending on how they send it to you, if they send it on some kind of server system, as soon as that's been received, they could get an automated email back potentially.
Oh, yeah, we could do that. But then, so the only thing we'd have to do manually is once it's booked into Calendly, we'd have to go back in and attach the fact find, because when a person starts a Zoom meeting, they've got a copy of the fact find that they've done.
Yeah,
and that's that manually, because you said Calendly can't attach PDFs.
It can't attach links, but if you use Zapier, so what Zapier can do, can look out for as soon as a Calendly meeting's booked, if you've got a fact find in your system, depending on what system you store things in. So if you use Trello, for example, it can automatically. So what I've done is every time a client books a meeting, that will create a new Trello card, and then on Jot form, if there's a card that matches, it'll link the 2 together. But yeah, I definitely, Calendly has just been a game changer. We started doing that at the beginning of COVID. It just makes life, because I was finding with giving a client sort of 5 or 6 different Zoom meetings, then you've got to set the Zoom meeting up, and it doesn't take that long, but it's like an extra couple of minutes to set the Zoom meeting up.
So all really Calendly needs to move forward with is letting attachments be attached to the meetings,
Yeah, but if you can do, you can. What would you want to attach to the Calendly meeting then?
The fact find that the person's done. So when we do the meeting, they know what they've done.
So they see that. Okay. Do you use client portals?
Well, that's where they've filled in the fact find, and it's straight into my CRM, you see.
You might be able to do that link.
Yeah. Okay, I'll have a play. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
There's definitely going to be something, but it's just thinking that, for example, the idea of having the how can I overcome the issue of we send out a PDF to clients because you can't send attachments? I was scratching about thinking ages, how can it work? And just mooching around, all of a sudden it just comes to me. It's like, actually, let's try
what
that.
What I don't want to do is have a client booking a Calendly meeting and then I've still got no fact find, because then that's not how I work. Everything's prepped.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you'd only send the link to the Calendly after you've had the fact find back. So even if it's just somebody in your team then sends it out to them. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want that because it's going to be a nightmare. It's going to just, your business is going to fall over then.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Gareth.
Any other questions?
Do you have a question? Jenny? Yep. JB. Far away.
Jenny.
Over to you, Jenny.
We
No,
can't hear you.
she's muted.
Okay. Matt, did
Jenny.
you remember your other one?
I just had one that, how are you going with the prompting? I found an article by Michael Kitsis he interviewed, I can share it with the group, on prompting. He's done some work like yourself. I think Gareth today has been a great session, and the whole prompt side of things, it does make a big difference.
Oh, huge difference. Again, it's just playing around with it. I'm going to load up my chat GPT to show you. If I can just, if you're okay for a minute, and I'm going to show you the kind of prompting that I use. Okay, so this is, here we go. So this is, which one is this? This is my executive assistant. So if I click on here, edit GPT. So it's an AI assistant for me. This is how detailed I put the prompt. So it's first of all, you need to assign it a role. You need to tell it what it does. So you are acting as an executive assistant who's an expert at marketing. One of your talents is to produce output for a UK audience in plain English in a compelling manner. Who it works for, so effectively it works for us. And I'm just reminded of who we are, because each time you create a new GPT, it doesn't have access to the other ones. So all my GPTs let them know that who Blackstone partners are, the kind of clients we work best with, the style we use for communication, the style that UK audiences like rather than the US audiences, which is, yeah, it's a bit, I find it a bit flowery and a bit gushing. And what I find is no matter how many times you need to tell it that it's UK English rather than US English, so English, it still gets confused. So often I need to sort of reiterate that it needs to be British English. And it still comes up with some of the Americanisms. And what ChatGPT does quite badly, it often hallucinates, which you've probably heard about before. So if it doesn't know what something is, it makes something up. And that's what can make it really creative. And it's weird. When I first started hearing about ChatGPT, I thought it was going to be really good at the methodical work in terms of calculations and data-driven stuff, and not very good at the creative stuff. But it's actually the opposite. It's rubbish. If you actually ask it to analyze tax calculations, I wouldn't trust the outputs. But if you ask it to be creative, it can come up with some really left field ideas. So just reiterating who you want it for. What about our expertise, how we do, what the tone of the communications are, the kind of content we would like it to be, the language you want to use. So this is the instructions. That's the prompting we've got for that one. And again, letting it know what you want is really, really important. And then these are the knowledge. So I've got case studies, for example, of the kind of clients that we work with, information about us, the team, and also the kind of levels we offer in terms of our services. So prompting is really important, Matt.
No, that's great. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
There is already a link in the comments if anyone wants to download the link in the comments to keep on file. Yes, Bob, please go.
Amanda, Fenella, my practice manager's got a question.
Okay.
Thanks, Gareth. That was that was very mind-opening to see what you've done with your GPT models. I haven't seen anything like that before. I've had a look at Calendly in the past. We have most of our first meetings in person. We prefer them that way. And so we have an advisor and then we have a meeting room. Can Calendly look at if this advisor is available on that date? Can it then go and look at a meeting room and then give those openings to someone through Calendly?
It can. I find so you've got just one advisor and one meeting room?
No, we've got a number of advisors and we've got a number of venues. So if the client wanted to meet advisor D in venue 2, I need Calendly to be able to say, well, okay, you know, Bob wants to meet advisor B in venue C. Can it then give the client or prospective client openings that meet those 2 criteria?
Yes. If you've got the free version, no. The paid for version can have multiple calendars and also multiple events. So what you would want is one, because I had the same issue. We've got a meeting room, we've got a few advisors, we've got us and also the company next door to us. We share one meeting room. So we've had to create a second Calendly account for this. So you've got each meeting room should have its own Calendly diary. So you can then say, so you can send a link for meeting room A, for example. You can't link it to a specific advisor, I don't think. But if you're the advisor, so let's say advisor 1 sends okay, well, I want to use this meeting room. You could send a link for that one meeting room, and when they book it, they have to select what advisor they are. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So you do it in reverse. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. The second question relates to Fathom, because I've also had a look at Fathom and I liked it. We were also looking at FileNote.ai, which is quite expensive when you've got 5 advisors, whereas Fathom, I think, is a lot more cost effective. But for instance, the outputs that you showed us from Fathom, did you have to train it to say, well, okay, I want the format of your summary in this particular template?
No, you can't train Fathom, as far as I know. However, what you've got is on the free version, you've just got one output, which is okay. Again, you need to be careful with this. You can spending a fortune. It's $20 here, $30 there, and it does mount up a bit. But with Fathom, here we go. So if I click on one of these, I'm just going to show you the kind of output, if you're okay for a moment.
We have used the Fathom paid version for a few months now.
So I use, so on the paid version, so this is probably what you used. You've got this is a meeting I did with a client last week, and you can choose. So I find the general one, that works quite well, because what you've got is meeting purpose. So that one there, for example, I'll copy and paste that into the first top left of my box of my one-page plan. So that's just a summary of what the purpose was. And then it's got the key takeaways. So I don't think, as far as I know, you can't train it, but they've got quite a few different outputs, but the general one I find works quite well for me. But no, I don't think you can train it. If you find a way of doing it, please let me know. But I find that standard output works pretty well. And then, like lots of the other stuff, it kind of gets the acronyms. It seems to know we're talking about financial services stuff. So when we talk about the family holidays, it ignores that because it knows that's not central to the meeting. Whereas some things like Otter, it has like a paragraph talking about the holidays we went on. It's like, well, that's not really pertinent to the meeting. But Fathom tends to be really clever about knowing what's relevant and what's not.
Yeah, I think that our licensee would like us to be able to tick various compliance boxes and cover off those issues. So it's probably going to mean that our advisors need to be working off a template of things they need to ask the client in order to have that included in the summary. Does that
It does make sense. What you might be able to do is, if you make use of the transcript from it, if you know what that template is, you can then simply have a chat GPT. You need to be careful about the data, make sure you haven't got any client names in there. But what you could do is you can train a chat GPT and say, this is our standard template. I would like you. And then you could have a prompt saying, based on our standard template, please analyze the following meeting transcripts, and then copy and paste the Fathom transcripts, and then it'll do that all for you. And then it'll be exactly the style you want.
I actually did that once, and it blew my mind. I got a bit sort of scared, I think. But yes, okay, I see that that's probably the next step for us if we do go down the Fathom route.
And you can get, I've got someone who's hopefully, when he gets a chance, he's actually the husband of my my power planner who does my technical work. There's something you can get called what's the name of it? It's a system basically where you can actually build your own system using this stuff behind the scenes. So it's almost like your own chatbot kind of situation. So he's looking at actually building one for me that does this. So he wants to build one that will automatically take the stuff and put it into ChatGPT. So literally click a button, you get your Fathom notes, for example, and it'll automatically then feed it into something like ChatGPT in the output you want and send it back into your email drafts.
Yes, well, what you've just said to me is that if I can train a GPT to take the content of the Fathom summary and to the format of our existing FileNote template.
Yeah, and that would be easy to do. And it's just literally then copy and pasting into ChatGPT then.
Yeah, straight away explain.
Excellent. Well, I know in the interest of time, it's time to wrap up. We've gone a little over, which is very un-MDRT of us. Again, thank you so much, Gareth, for sharing that. Can people look you up on LinkedIn, or are you happy for me to share your contact details?
Yeah, both. Yeah, either LinkedIn or share my details are fine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so
Thank you
much
for the
for joining
invite.
us,
Thanks,
everyone.
Gareth.
I'll let you know when the
Gareth.
recording's
Have a
out.
great day.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Again.
Take care.
See you all. Bye.
Bye, everybody.